Look at them and read them along as an anecdote or as a, palliative to me, although Robert Price, I have to tell you, worships me, so what can I tell you? He's even written me letters, and we got stuff on my cover of James, Brother of Jesus, a quote from him where I've inspired him, blah, 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 blah. So I don't know how many footnotes he gives me in The Incredible Shrinking Man, but he's talking about Jesus there. He's a Christian theologian. And the last two, a harmony of the Gospels and an interlinear Greek. Now, we all have New Testaments, but to do this class, you really need mine's battered and beaten. I'm not going to get the one you have because I don't want to transfer all my notes to it. But, look at, I got millions of notes in this thing, and it'd be too much for me to, try to transfer them all. I'm going to follow my harmony. This doesn't exist anymore, but they're all a harmony. Basically, the Gospels lined up in 3 columns or 4 columns paralleling, so you can see where they agree and where they disagree with each other. And so you really need a book like that to do this kind of stuff. So that, of course, is a must. Some book like that. It's not sufficient to have a New Testament. So, of course, it's nice to have a Bible so you can look up Old Testament quotes and things, but you don't need to have a New Testament as such because we're going to have 2 here. The other is a kind of Greek interlinear. I mean, if your Greek isn't perfect, I don't know anyone whose Greek is perfect. It lines it all up like this, with the English on one side and the Greek on the other side. And you don't even have to know Greek. You don't know enough Greek if you've been in fraternities to read the Greek letters of a given word, or sororities for that matter. And mine gets pretty beat up, as you see. I got a lot of up pages marked. But frankly, in lieu of knowing perfect Greek, I don't know anyone who does, this is a good way to go. A lot of people think this is cheating, but it's not cheating. It's very helpful. And it has under the Greek word the actual English translation, so you can look and see if the thing is being translated right. You can even go to a Greek dictionary. But that's why I put an interlinear in there too. You want to make sure your translation is being accurate. You really want to make sure of that. And you don't have to have an interlinear, but I would suggest you have one. For your study purposes, you don't want to have them. I don't know what your budget is. You have to decide what books you consider valuable. Am I making sense to you? You decide what you consider valuable and what you don't consider valuable. I mean, you're a free, independent person. You know how to limp or get through a class. You can either swim through, crawl through, or fly through. Just depends, how serious you are, how much time you want to put on it. But I assume if you're in a class like this, you really want to get deep into it. So all the books I have suggested to you are books that you will not want to sell back to the bookstore. If you buy one of these books and I see you online selling it back to the bookstore, I'm going to personally go down there and get my horse whip out there and slap the ground with it. Because that I would take as an affront. I don't want to sign any book that you'd want to get rid of when you're done with it. I have been to my students' classes since I first came here to Long Beach homes, and I am so astonished at how barren and bare they are. I walk into the living rooms and all there is clean furniture. I go into other rooms and there's nothing there except maybe some art books that they used to order from Time Life Books or something like that, coffee table books. There's nothing there. No, there. You have to prove you've been to the university. What proves that you've been to the university? Besides your brain, books. People have to come into your house and say, oh my, this person's smart. She's awesome. I'm frightened of this person. Yeah, you want that. You want that. You want some prestige from having been to a place. You want to keep books that are worth keeping and frighten or awe other people. I know it sounds childish and stupid, but that's part of life, to awe other people with your awesomeness. And that's part of it. So I want you to buy the books, as many as you can afford, and start your own library. That's really important. So I have the recommended books here. I got to hurry here. Can you give me a couple more minutes? I won't take much more. Gaze of Hermes, Complete Dead Sea Scrolls. I made this guy more money than he deserves to have. And I really dislike this guy immensely, and he hates me. And he has lies about me in his books and stuff like that. which things I've never said so he can destroy me and stuff like that. He's at Oxford. He's 80 years old. I don't want to hurt him anymore. But the point is, that's the third thing we have that the people who used to do these studies didn't have. We've got Josephus, of course. We have the Gospels, of course, and we have the Dead Sea Scrolls. And that, since 48, is what has thrown new light on the whole thing, because we have, like, you know, we have actual authentic material from the 1st century. Put it in a time capsule for us as if, God, how could that have been? And it's there. And the point of the matter is that this is not just any old material, this is messianic material. I call this group not just Essenes, but the literature of the messianic movement in Palestine. That's what the Dead Sea Scrolls are. They are the actual literature that inspired whatever messianism we know in Palestine. So I can't give you a Dead Sea Scroll class. I know Ron is teaching that. He's one of my students. I love to teach that class too. It's a class I developed here. But I can't do that with the schedule I have, so I'm doing this one as a kind of farewell. The point being, to have the Dead Sea Scrolls, and Vermesh has a complete selection, which is the best translation, even though he does make mistakes, but it's better than other ones. So you should have that in your library to be able to look at. I have another book, The Dead Sea Scrolls and the First Christians, that has some translations, since I saw that they're remaindering it for $8 in some places. It's Barnes & Noble's has published it. They sell it out there. It's got some good translations of some of the principal Dead Sea Scroll documents, plus some good essays of mine. Michael Bajan and Richard Lee, you may have heard of them. They were recently involved in the whole Da Vinci Code controversy. They took the Da Vinci Code author to court to say he ripped off all their work, which he did. He even mentions them in his book. One of the characters, the evil character, is Lee T-Bing. Lee is from Richard Lee. T-Bing is an acronym of Bajent. And he just switched the letters around, and he mentions their book, and they're the ones who first wrote about this in Holy Blood, Holy Grail. But they also wrote a book with me called The Dead Sea Scrolls Deception, which I fed them all the information, and then they exploited it. And I read their book over and corrected 400 some odd errors. So I know it's at least solid. I'm not responsible for their sort of speculative ideas or conspiracy theories, but I am responsible to some extent for making sure that their data was solid. And they quote me over and over again, and they came to these classes. And in fact, I had to make them put some footnotes in acknowledging me, because they wouldn't give me the acknowledgments that they were supposed to do. And so they didn't even give me the numbers they should have. So, but if you look at the footnotes, the second part of the book about the scrolls, just about every other footnote is to my work. Not that I'm bragging about that, but the point being that wasn't even sufficient, because their publishers didn't want them to put any more in, because it would have looked like a total ripoff. So they only put the bare minimum number of footnotes in, and I have to press them for that. But in any case, that's a good introduction to the Dead Sea Scrolls. Finally, Robert Eisler, The Messiah, Jesus, and John the Baptist. That is a classic book. It's not available anywhere. I think we have a copy of it in the library. You can't buy it, but the point being is that's a tremendous first step in terms of what you might want to learn about in this subject. I'll let you go now. Again, I hope that I didn't say too many things that would make you want to go, but you're a free person. You do what you think is right for you. Glad to have met you all. See you next time. Next time, you should bring your Josephus if you have it. I'll be talking about background historical material and mainly draw it from Josephus. Sorry to have kept you so long. I'll tell you as I got it. I'll tell you. All right, wait, let me turn this thing off.